Welcome to the podcast, Raising Unstoppable Teens. I'm your host, Dr. Kimberly Shear, teen breakthrough expert and founder of Academy for Independence. I am so excited to have my guest here with me today to share her insights and perspectives. Please let's welcome Dara Connolly to the show. So, welcome. I'm so delighted you're here.
Thank you, Dr. Kimberly. I'm excited to be here as well.
Nice. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to read Dara's magnificent bio, and then we'll jump into the questions. So Dara Connolly is passionate about helping you live confident, fearless, and safe. She's a certified black belt instructor who found that even a black belt wasn't enough to give her confidence or prevent bullies. In 2004, she started a movement to help women speak up to be heard and kick fear and bullies to the curb. Today, she is a top selling author and award winning speaker who uses her platform to help you achieve life changing success. Whether it's setting boundaries in relationships or learning to exude confidence, Dara is on a mission to empower you. Awesome. So I'm going to just jump right in with my first question that I ask all my guests, which is what were your teen years like for you?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I was very shy. I was basically a wallflower, and they used to tease me a little bit that I was a what if girl because I worried about everything. I had a lot of fear, and I was pretty much consumed by fear. And I think my mom kind of saw that I was starting to drift into being really invisible. It wasn't so much that I was picked on or bullied. I mean, I knew I had a lot of fear, but I just wasn't participating in things. And then she decided at one point we need to do something. And so she puts me in a karate class, which is kind of crazy because you have a really shy kid and you're thrown into this obnoxious environment where kids are like ready to spar and very confident. And here I am sitting there and I'll never forget it. And it was really eye-opening for me how much I lived in fear and didn't participate. So my teen years were more of a hider. I would label myself as a hider.
Wow, that's interesting. I can just imagine my teen years. I tended to drift more to being a rebellious kid. But in my younger years, I definitely was that shy, kid. I lacked self-esteem, and I didn't really assert myself at all because I was that shy kid. And I remember the principal of the school talking to my parents. This is so silly, but it's these little things to watch out for, though. That when we'd play recess and I'd be with my friends, I was always the one turning the jump rope. I was rarely ever the one jumping the rope. Just because on one hand, didn't really assert myself. So, and then I can imagine me being that and then going to karate class. Like that
Oh
would be
yeah, it's
very,
crazy
yeah.
because you're somebody who just wanted to hide and I never spoke up. I never raised my hand honestly through school ever. And I didn't think it was a big deal. I just thought, hey, this works for me. I could do this. But eventually you start to realize this isn't a way to live. So
Right. Right. Okay. Um, so that is kind of pertains to my first question too about you being a black belt in karate and that you found that that wasn't enough to give you confidence. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
yeah, so here's the thing. I only stayed in karate because my mom was like, you're not going to quit. Otherwise I would have easily went home and said, I don't want to do this. So she doesn't let me quit. So eventually I get my black belt, which from the outside looked really empowering and everyone was so impressed. But truthfully, I didn't tell any of my friends. I kept it very quiet because I knew that it was just this external award. It was this belt that, although I could do the physical skills to show and prove I earned it, it didn't fill me with confidence on the inside. And over the years, I realized confidence really comes from the inside. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think if I achieve a certain level or make a certain amount of money or finish this degree, have all these accolades, that then I'll be more confident. But what I've learned is that it comes from the inside out. It works the other way around. Once you feel more confident, then you can go on and do the things that you're meant to do, and success will follow you. So
Hmm.
for me, it was really this external badge that, although I was very proud of it and I worked really hard for it, and even went on to teach martial arts for a long time, it took me a long time to understand that confidence was something that I can do. I didn't need, it's kind of like a Wizard of Oz moment, right? Where they're handing out these things of, here's your diploma, here's your, to tell you you're smart. But I needed to tell myself that. I needed that confidence from the inside. So it was a really profound moment for me that I actually didn't discover till later in life, of where where is this confidence that everybody assumes I have? It's, I can create it. I'm the one. We're not born with it. We create it. We can develop it. We can learn to have it. And
I
that
love
was,
that.
yeah, that was important for me to realize.
Absolutely. And I have a question for you. Do you believe that sometimes, I guess it's easy to think you need confidence and then you have the courage to take a healthy risk or, kind of step over the edge of your comfort zone?
Well, they go together.
Mhm.
So I always think, so here's the thing. I didn't have confidence, but I had courage. So it was kind of a weird, I was always a brave, I'll try it, but I wasn't necessarily convinced that I could do it. And that kind of worked for me, because what I realized is confidence is the ability to take an action to do something.
Mhm.
You may not be good at the activity. You may not fully have it all together. Oftentimes in life, we don't have it all together. We
Right.
don't know all the answers. But if we keep moving forward and keep pursuing it and keep taking that step forward and doing the action anyway, even if we don't feel it, not only do we develop confidence, but that's basically a definition of courage, where you're afraid, but you do it anyway. And they work hand in hand. And that's one of the things I talk about in my first book, is how confidence and courage, they work together. But when you do one, you're building the other one. It's kind
Mhm.
of like, you don't even realize it, but it's happening. So
Mhm.
it's definitely a synergistic relationship.
It is. And I like the way that you said that because it kind of works both ways. Because I always was thinking of it like, well, that's kind of uh, in my world anyway, with my peers, that's more of a way to think about it. And I kind of thought about it the opposite way, where it takes courage first and then confidence. And what I'm hearing from you is it's really a combination of both,
It
and
is a combination. Yeah, it may work. It may work that way for some people. Like for me, it was kind of, I would do it before I felt it, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. I just
Yeah.
started doing things way before I felt it. All the things I've done, basically speaking, writing books. You just have to start doing the activity. That takes courage, right? You have to just start. That's that courage part. And then as you start learning and getting competent, it develops confidence.
Love that. Very well stated. Um, so, what have you found is the most useful way that our young people can develop their confidence?
Well, as parents, it's important to notice what activities or hobbies or interests they have,
Mhm.
and help hone into that, because kids don't necessarily want to do anything. I have a 13-year-old. I know it's hard to get kids to participate in things sometimes. They want to drift off. But we have to encourage that. And the thing is, I would suggest for all the parents listening, be really in tune to what natural abilities and interests your child has, and let them be authentically themselves. If they want to play guitar, then encourage that. If they want to explore art, if your son wants to take ballet, your daughter wants to do boxing, we have to break down all these stereotypes or what we want our child to do. So, for example, because I was teaching karate for so long, it was important that my son gets his black belt. I was like, look, just do this. It will help you. And he was like, Mom, I don't want to do it. And it was this battle for a couple of years. And then I realized, you know what? It's not his thing. It's okay. So we have to find what works for each kid. And when they're doing the thing that they love and they feel good about, they'll develop that confidence. That's the whole thing. It's about taking that action and activity that you enjoy, because if you're forced to do something, you're not going to pursue it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times parents don't help our kids realize what they're good at, what's that natural ability. And if we can help hone them, and it's got to be a little bit hands off, right? Of, hey, let them find it. And sometimes it takes them a long time to find it. But it's definitely one of those things of when they know what they're authentically able to do and express themselves in an authentic way, especially today, young people are dealing with lots of stuff going on. If we can let them be authentic with who they are, then they like themselves. They'll feel good about themselves. And that's important. That's how we build self-esteem and confidence.
I love that. And I also think being okay with where you're at, mistakes, warts and all,
Yeah.
kind of that self-acceptance, but being okay with that is actually helping to give the person not only acceptance of themselves, but also the courage to try
Mhm.
these things, because they're not going to be so worried about getting it perfect or worried about other people's judgments necessarily, because they have more of an acceptance. Like, I'm still okay, even if I make mistakes, for example, or,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just kind of curious and playing around with some of these things and having that kind of mindset rather than I liked what you said, like, no, you're going to do this. And it's not what they enjoy.
And
Um,
that's okay. It's okay to try things and be like, this isn't a fit, or to change your mind to go, I want to explore that again. And that's the thing. We all tried things and failed, and we have to be easier on our kids, is basically what I'm trying to say, because they
mhm.
have enough pressure.
Yeah, they do.
And it saddens me to see that they're trying to keep up with what they think mom and dad want them to do, and it may not even be interesting for them. And that's not building their confidence. Like, I could have forced my kid to do karate and he could have eventually got his black belt, but would that build him up, or would that just shatter him? So we have to make sure we're letting them be who they are.
Mhm.
And the failure thing is just part of it. We've all failed at lots of things, but that's okay. I could talk a long time on failure because it's not a failure, it's learning, it's growing.
Exactly. Exactly. And the other thing I just want to again emphasize that you said that I am very passionate about is focusing on the strengths, helping your team to see their talents and natural gifts. And I know for my girls and for a lot of teens, it's like, I mean, I don't know if you've gotten this, but oh, mom, you're supposed to say that because you're my mom. Oh,
Yeah.
your mom, though, you're biased.
Yeah.
Say it anyway because it still counts.
Mhm.
And I think in school, we're also learning, but with that somewhat comes the conditioning of we're focused on the mistakes and then correcting those mistakes and making improvements, and we don't really focus a whole lot on other people's strengths and their talents and gifts. So if parents can kind of bridge that and have that within the home, um, it's really important, and then they'll think it through and either kind of discover that, but it opens up their mind too to start to see how, wow,
Yeah.
yeah, I
And
did
like
do
you
really well.
said, even if they're rolling their eyes going, whatever, mom, they think they need to say that. So part of them's doing that because that's part of their culture.
Right.
But they still hear what we say, and it still feels good. It feels good for everyone to hear, hey, you're doing a great job, or good effort on that, even if it didn't work out.
Yeah.
At any age, we need to hear that. And a lot of times parents forget that our kids are doing the best they can, and we get caught in that criticism trap. I know I do that, where you could have did that better, or why didn't you clean your room? And it's just constant. And if they hear that all the time, that's chipping away at their confidence, not building them up. And it's basically one of these things, right? When you look back at your childhood, are you going to remember something a stranger said? Probably not, but your parents, that's going to stick so much more. And when we say something that's helpful, not hurtful, and builds them up, and you can't do it if you don't feel it. Like, I'm not saying your
Right.
daughter something and it's really bad and you're going to be like, oh my god, don't
No.
fake it. That's not
Yeah.
helpful in any way. But if you can find something to compliment them on, and again, it's the effort, not the outcome,
Mhm.
that's important, and it'll help. They'll know that, wow, they appreciate that I tried, and it makes them feel good. So I think it's just being a good friend and a good person to your kids, and letting them know, I get it, that this is hard and you're doing the best you can, and build them up a little bit more than we sometimes do.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think sometimes too, our messaging, sometimes we don't realize how our messages, uh, being very loving and well intentioned, land sometimes for our kids too. So, and I'm not saying that we can really always control for that, but that's also another factor. So that's why I think we can never go wrong at really trying, making a good effort at seeing. And I loved what you said. It needs to be authentic, it needs to be genuine and sincere, but really seeing, um, a lot of the positives that our children bring to us and bring
Yeah.
into this world.
Yeah.
So,
Choosing the positive whenever we can will
mhm,
always build up their confidence. And by the way, let me just say this, because I'm going through this with my teen. The teen years are hard,
mhm,
and that is normal. Just in case anyone doesn't remember, when they were a teen, it's normal for them to feel kind of low or doubt their confidence or be full of self-doubt. So we have to kind of loosen the reins a little bit, cut them a little slack. It's okay for them to feel that, I just don't know this, I don't know who I am, and have all this questioning coming up. That's not the time to really nitpick and
right.
go crazy on everything. Just let's give them a break and notice what they're doing well, and just point that out.
Oh, I love it. I already feel my heart feels warm just hearing that. So, great advice. Um, what are some ways that our listeners, can prevent toxic people from their life? This is a big one.
Yeah. Well, the for a long time I was teaching in middle schools and high schools on how to identify unhealthy relationships, because especially at that age when they don't talk to us as much, they start to get into bad situations. And a lot of times it starts younger than we think. Middle
Right.
school is really where even dating violence, even if you think, oh, they're not dating, well, they're in pure relationships that may be harmful or maybe abusive, emotionally abusive. And this is where we need to sit down and make sure we have a dialogue with our child or teen about, are you feeling that these relationships are healthy, or how do people treat you? And give them a chance to talk, because a lot of times they don't see it as unhealthy. For example, they may be in a relationship where someone adores them and showers them with lots of gifts or something, and just lots of nice jewelry or whatever. And if this is your child, they may think, oh, I love the attention, I love all this flattery, but really it may be something that the person's doing to control them.
Right.
So there's signs of unhealthy relationships. And the most important thing is to teach our young people how to have boundaries,
Mhm.
and to recognize that if someone says something that makes you feel uncomfortable, or certainly if they do something that makes you feel uncomfortable, like trying to control you or just be manipulative in any way, that you need to set a boundary. And you can do that verbally by saying, this is not okay. You can do it emotionally by separating yourself. And you can do it physically by physically saying, I'm not going to be in this space or this relationship, or I need to break up with this person.
Mhm.
So there needs to be a dialogue that parents need to have to make sure, like just checking in, just because I know kids don't want to talk. They want to keep their private life private,
Mhm.
but there's has to be a way to initiate that dialogue of, maybe you can even tell a story of what happened when we were younger. Give them an example of, when I was going through that, I noticed I was in a relationship that wasn't healthy, and how you set a boundary. Give them the tools that would be effective for them to know that this isn't healthy and this isn't safe. Because if you just let outside media tell them what's okay, they're going to get the wrong information. So
Yeah.
we have to provide for them what is healthy and model it for them.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think some of these things too can be a little bit sneaky, um, because recently I ran into something. Uh, what do I say? That I what do I want to say? It wasn't toxic, but it was more of a situation where I kept running into people that I would, I feel lacked integrity.
Mm.
And, and so there were certain actions I was unwilling to take, um, because ethically I felt like I can't support somebody who doesn't have integrity.
Right.
And, with their business or whatever it was. And so I just thought, okay, I'm not going to do that action, for example. And I never committed to that. So I wasn't,
Well, it's that
responsible.
awareness, exactly, that this isn't healthy. And you were asking for tips. So one of the things you can do is make sure that they're surrounded by positive, supportive people. Check in, like, who are their friends? Do you know their friends? You know who they're dating? And if you sense that that's not healthy, then it's time to sit down and be like, well, how is that person treating you? And a lot of times kids don't know. And here's one way you can help them discover if it's healthy. Uh, and this is easier for some kids than others, but it's to tune into their intuition. Like, let them spend some time alone after they were with their friends, or if it's a dating relationship, and really take a moment to think about, how do you feel after you leave that social gathering? Do you feel like they were picking on you? Do you feel bad that you're just, it wasn't, didn't feel good? And it'll give them a visceral reaction in their body, maybe a stomach aches. A lot of times kids will say they get a headache. That checking in of how do they physically feel after they're with these people will tell them if it's toxic or not, if they're not sure, because it is tricky to know. And sometimes you're not able to set a boundary. It could be from a teacher, or it could be someone they work with, or whoever, a family member. And it's a little bit difficult sometimes to separate from those people. But if it feels wrong to them, then it's important to listen to that and to honor it. And as parents, we need to be open to whatever they're going to say. If they say, hey, mom, I'm getting a feeling whenever your friend so and so comes over, it just makes me uncomfortable the way they look at me. Well, that's a conversation that you need to be ready to have, and you can't judge them and say, oh, how dare you judge that, my friend, right? It's being, you have to be open and ready for whatever comes their way. So trusting the intuitive feelings
Mhm.
is a really important skill. And when I do my workshops, we spend a lot of time developing intuition and listening to it. And the second part of that is to be sure you're surrounding yourself with positive people. So you may have to help them. Be like, hey, set up not a play date, right? As they get older, they don't really call it that. I guess hangouts. I don't know what they call it these days, but just a way for them to encourage who you know are healthier friends for them, and get them to be around positive, supportive people that help them feel good.
I love that. There was so much in that. So again, I just want to highlight a few of the things. Listening to your intuition, that is so key. And the fact that the visceral response, oftentimes our bodies, we carry that in our bodies and it is signaling to us. So even trying to identify where we feel that or where we feel strange or uncomfortable will help them to become more aware of, other times when their body is giving them messages like,
Exactly.
this doesn't feel right. The other thing is like when you said, be open to what they're saying. If they feel like uncomfortable with the way the friend looked at them or whatever, even if you have no concerns about your friend, if your teen feels that way, that's their reality and it needs to be honored and respected and explored as well. So I really liked that you said that. And then lastly, just again, when you were saying whether, we're adults or kids or what, the boundary setting and surrounding ourselves with positive people. Um, where I was saying for me, it was sneaky was I got angry. So I was
Mm.
angry, like I'm angry because, what's happened. I just keep running into people that I feel lack integrity. What's going on? Right. Well, then I made the connection recently that my anger was more tied to the fact that I wasn't speaking up.
Mhm.
Now, I could do it very professionally, very diplomatically. Um, but that took, once I did that, I felt empowered and the anger just went away. So sometimes those are cues too of, really setting those boundaries. And it really does put you in a place of empowerment, and I think make you feel better overall, overall you feel better about
Oh
yourself.
yeah, you're more in control of it. And in a way, if you always notice the same types of people in your relationships, right? If they're abusive in some way, and there's lots of different types of abuse, but that may be something that the energy you're giving out, that they're kind of preying on you in a way, right? So it's never anyone's fault, but there's definitely energy that we protrude that people respond to. So when we set those boundaries, those energy drainers or abusive people, they aren't going to waste time with us. They're going to sense that we have a solid boundary, and that's how they look for a different person to kind of harass.
Very good. Very good. So that comes to my next question. That's a great lead into this. How did you come up with the Jerky Johnny game, which I have to say I've looked at it. I think it's amazing, and I've shared it with a lot of parents in my groups. Um, so please tell us more about it, and how you came up with the idea.
Well, let's see. This was a work in progress over many years of teaching in middle schools and high schools. And the Jerky Johnny game was actually just kind of by accident. I was teaching a bunch of youth, and used to do lots of classes for women. We would just role play different scenarios of what would happen if you're trapped in a car with a boyfriend who's driving you home and he does something inappropriate, or your best friend maybe says something or tries to threaten you. Just different, what I would call danger signs of unhealthy relationships. And it's just a role playing game. And my intention with it is to help the parents start a dialogue, because I realized that the girls would tell me all this stuff that's going on in their life, but their parents had no clue.
Exactly.
And we would work on it in the class, and they'd get all the skills, but still the parents were left in the dark and not understand what really these issues that they're dealing with are pretty heavy, right? It could be emotionally abusive, physically abusive, somebody is controlling them or threatening them, just lots of different situations that our young people experience that we don't even know. And so the way I designed it is for, I would say, if you have anyone age 10 through college age, because the cards are differentiated between preteen and teen, the college girls can do it on their own. That's fine. They're old enough. But younger kids, definitely, you could sit down with them. I mean, it's designed for girls the way it's written, but boys play it all the time because it's the same skills of just, hey, and you role play, you read the scenario, and what happens is the kids actually open up because it's a game and it's fun. And it's in a way where it's not awkward, right? You can't just, because I know this with my own kids, I can't just walk down the hall, knock on the door and be like, hey, tell me about your day. How'd it go with that bully? Did you speak up? Like, mom, get out of here. They're not going to open up. We have to find a way to have a dialogue about these serious issues. And it kind of just happened just organically of we were doing it anyway. And I realized, wow, how many other people can benefit from this? So I'm really proud of the way the game has helped people. And it's opened up a lot of new conversations that I didn't even realize. So my intention was for young people, but here's the funny thing that happened. The moms would call me after and say, I was playing it with my daughter and I learned so much from it. Can you design something for me? And that's how then I started going down the path of the workbook, which is behind me. So it's just funny how there's so much need for these skills and these tools, but where are we getting them? The kids aren't learning this in school. A lot of parents are uncomfortable having these conversations. Right. So when you have a neutral thing, a neutral game, a neutral tool, and in worst case, this is what I always say, if you have a really feisty teen who's like, she's not going to sit down with me, or he's not going to play this with me, it's a little box. You just put it in their room and you walk away. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you, they will read it and you may notice something changes. You may notice they come to you and have conversations that you didn't even know they were going through. So it's a great way to get a little peek into what's happening in their life and give them some really professional skills that help them out.
That's amazing. And so, buckle up, parents, because that dialogue may be coming when you're not ready. So, but it's so true. And it's so important. I was just having this conversation actually with my daughter about the importance of healthy relationships, sex, all those issues really, many parents, it kind of shy away from it, I guess.
It's awkward. It's awkward. Yeah, we don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And so yeah, Jerky Johnny covers a lot. So that's why I say it has preteen stuff, which is like bullying, right? You're going to the mall and your best friend's trying to talk you into stealing something. How do you handle that? And then it gets into a little bit more middle school relationships where you start dealing with pressures. Even then, college, even sexual assault stuff is very lightly touched on. It's worded very careful so it's not anything inappropriate, and you can screen the cards if you're concerned about younger kids. But how do you bring that up in a conversation, right? It's awkward, but the cards give it away. And if they, like I said before, they don't want to play it with you, they can read it and they're learn. I mean, my son, I designed it for girls, and so I was testing him when he was in middle school, like, hey, you have to just let me know, does this sound topical? Is this what's going on? And he's like, yeah, whatever. And then honestly, he took the game and wouldn't give it back. And he still has it in his room. And this was months ago, because they like to know these skills. They want to know. And even my daughter, who's much younger, still like, it's funny how kids will want to play it. Trust me. So it's just one of those things that I was lucky that I had this idea to do it, because I didn't realize how many people it really does help. And I know for me, if I had that when I was younger, it would have saved so many questions that I had, because it's very awkward approaching your parent. Remember, when you go back to what it feels like to be 12 or 16 and you're in the middle of all your stuff, your parents are so busy, it's hard to approach with these questions. And so what does a kid do? They go, forget it, and they'll go Google something, or they'll ask a friend, or they go on YouTube. We don't want them doing that. We don't want them getting information from out there that maybe, who knows what's out there. So it's important to help break that ice and give them that, just that gateway into having that conversation. And then when you keep them close in the teen years, here's the best part. They'll stay close as an adult. They'll stay close and come to you with other things through their 20s and 30s and on. And it's building that foundation.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I think that the game also, I want to say, helps us parents break the ice as well. It's because it's just non-threatening, and it's just easy to do it through a game. I liked what you said about it being more neutral. So do you have any tips on bullying? For example, like a bully at school, or like, with the game you mentioned, the one, if a friend's trying to entice you to steal something, that, and also bullying online, or how they're signs to watch out for, or something that parents should be.
Yeah, this is well, the online stuff is so hard, because a lot of times the kids are alone with their devices and we have no idea what they're doing. So we definitely need a way to either check in with them of what's going on, have them talk to us. I know I have restrictions with my own kids of there's no technology in their room at night. There's lots of security on it of what they're allowed to do and what they're not. But we need to have a conversation, because if they're using technology, it's a privilege, and that privilege comes with a lot of stuff. There's so much that they can do on there. It's really not meant for kids, right? These devices are for adults, but if we're handing these to our young people, then they really must show the maturity to handle it. And a lot of kids can't handle it. I'm talking even through high school. So, I've done workshops where the girls that I've talked to, like 18-year-olds, will say, my parents are so strict, they won't let me have a phone. And I'm like, well, how's that feel? Are you embarrassed? Your friends will have phones. They say, you know what? At first I was, but now it's actually like a relief that I don't have to deal with all that because of all the social media pressure. So if you're going to hand them this stuff, you have to find a way to check in and look at what they're doing. You have a right as parents to check those devices. And there's so much that happens on there that we don't know. And if they do get an inappropriate message or somebody contacts them, we have to teach them not to respond, to block it, not necessarily erase it, because you need to have that evidence if it's definitely something threatening or dangerous. But we need to teach them how to not engage these conversations and just have this mature conversation about when we hand them these devices that were meant for adults, you're being exposed to lots of different things that normally as kids I wasn't exposed to. I'm sure you weren't exposed to. So it's opening up a whole can of worms that we have to be sure that we're okay with that. Don't just hand them a device and be like, it's all good. My kid has a phone. No, you need to set those boundaries with the technology. And when you talk about like a school bully or relationship bully, there's so much to teach on this topic. If I can give you just one tip, because there's so much. Let me make it simple. The very best thing I would say is to teach them to remain neutral. Teach them to be calm if they can. Because a bully is looking for that reaction. They're looking for someone to pick on who's going to get emotional or upset or cry or do something that's hurt themselves. But if you can remain neutral in that moment, I know it's hard, just take a deep breath and then try to remove yourself either emotionally or physically from the scene until you can gather yourself in a collectible way to either respond or not respond. But every situation is different. It's not like there's one, do all for all situations. It depends what type of bully it is, because there's actually different types of bullies. And so it's important to just stay calm, because if you notice, if somebody keeps bullying you, even as an adult, right? We have workplace bullies. If we don't give them that reaction they're looking for, eventually they're going to get bored picking on us and they'll go to somebody else. You just stay composed. It's almost just like, I don't even hear you. You're invisible to me. Now, if they start doing things that hurt you or you're in danger, you have to definitely take it to a different space. But in the beginning, that's helpful, because we don't want to give them, they're trying to get control of our emotions. So don't give that to them.
Love that. Thank you. If you could say your contact information, and for those that might be interested in purchasing Jerky Johnny, if you can give us that information too, of where we need to send people.
Yeah, everything is on the daraconnolly.com website. In fact, so the book, it's Someone You Know in the corner. If you purchase any of my products off my website, in most cases, you get a free gift with it. So there's free danger sign poster that all of your listeners will get for listening to this podcast. I have, for anyone who's interested in getting a free confidence tips PDF, you can enter that by just entering your email on my website. So the first step is just go to daraconnolly.com and you'll see all of my products there, and I'm happy to offer free gifts with most of those purchases.
Nice. Well, thank you so very, very much for the wealth of wisdom that you shared with our listeners today. And I really, really appreciate you taking time out to be here for us and again, offer us insights and your generosity of some wonderful gifts as well. So.
Well, thank you, Dr. Kimberly. This is so fun. And if anyone out there needs help, please reach out. It's important to seek help before things get too far down the line. And I'm here. So just let me know.
Nice.
Thank you so much for the time.
Yes. So that concludes our show. Here's to unstoppable teens, unstoppable dreams.